Okay, I think the time is almost up, and so we can start today's training. So thank you for everyone joining this training. Here's the outline of today's training. It's about reporting and templating. So first I will talk about the use case. The use case is to create invoice with Excel template. Then I will talking about how to building UI with ZK components to come to do some to add more UI with this Keikai, and then we will show how to populate customer data from a database, and then we'll talk about the user permission control and how to reuse the book without importing again. And later we will show you how to populate data with the name range. And the final, we will have a Q&A section. So if you have questions, you can just write it down and or send it in the chat channels. And later in the final, I will answer them one by one. Okay. First one, I will demonstrate how this system looks like. Okay, so this is a page we call Invoice Builder. It's an application, and at first I will load. Sorry, let me open another window. Okay, and first this is a customers list, and these customer lists is populated from a database. And then first step, usually in a voice system, you will, for example, you will choose a customers. This is the first sheet, customers, and then you will go to the second sheet. Second sheet might have several products, and you might maybe these customers, you buy 3 products, and you can modify the quantity, maybe 3 and 4, 5, something like this. And this contains some unit price. You might modify it, maybe become expensive now or more expensive now, something like this. And so first you select the customer, you select the products, and then choose the template. There are 2 templates. So let's select the first template and click the create. So you will create a sheet with company name, and you can see the company name here and the customer's name, the contact name, and also the agent name. And this is here we have a list. The list is a product list. Actually, this comes from the product list we select in the previous sheet. So this is one case, or we have another case. Maybe there are multiple customers, for example, 1, 2, 3, they all buy the same product. Maybe they all buy PlayStation 4, something like this. So each customer buy 1, quantities is 1. So in this table, I only can modify quantity and unit price. The amount is calculated by formulas, and I make it protected, so I cannot change it. Also, I cannot change the product name and description here. Okay, and so this is the customer I already select, and I already select 1 product, and I select a template, and I click create. So you can see it creates 3 different sheets here. Each sheet has a company name, first order, empire, umbrella, and each sheet you can see it has different company name and company's contact name. Deborah, this is Kasha, this is Tameka, and these data actually comes from the previous customers table and the product tables I selected, and then I publish according to what I select. I publish to this invoice. I can also select another invoice template. So these are 2 templates. You can see it's blank. It only contains some format like a background or the the font size or the font families or formulas. I can click the second template and click create again. So it will create again according to the second template. So you can see the data is the same. You also build to the Deborah, but has different layout, different table style, different background. So you can see just create each sheet for each customers. So okay, this is the what these application looks like. It's a simple invoice builders. Okay, the next one I will talk about the architecture of this application. So you can see this is Keikai. This is Keikai components. And first you will import invoice source, this Excel template. Actually, we made it as our main UI. So it contains two sheets. One sheet is for it's customer sheet. And another sheet is a product sheet. So you can see the customer sheet is empty and product sheet contains some data because yeah, our product now is fixed. So after I import it and I import into Keikai, it will render, first it will render as an empty sheet, but at this moment I can query from our customer database and get a list of data, a list of customer and insert into these tables. So this is how you see at the initial at page creation. So you can see actually in the background, I first load an empty Excel. So it just look like this. It's a customer with empty table, and this is the products tables. It contains some products. So this is the original source file. And then I import into Keikai, and I query the data from, query the customer data from the database, and I insert into this table. And then when user click on this check mark to select customers and select products, and I press the create button. After create first button, I will use this template. I will clone the sheet from this template file and into a new book, and I extract data from the previous two tables and insert into the corresponding positions, corresponding cells, location with name range already set up in this template. Then later I will render into the browser. So if you see the invoice template, for example, let me show you the invoice template like this. It's in cell, and you can see here, there's a company name here, and there is a city. It's a name here. It means the contact name, it's the form and the email address, and this is agent name, agent form, agent email address. So we can create a name range for these cells. So when every time I change a different template, I can just, if I use the same range, name range, I don't need to care about what its absolute its cell address. So for second template, you can see there's also another name range here. Use the same name, but in different position. Okay, so this is the roughly architectures. We import the first page as our main UI and query and populate data from the database and insert into table. Then after selection, we import, we create an empty book with this template sheet and populate the data from the previous table and render to the customer, render to a browser to create an invoice based on this invoice template. So this is the architecture. So let's go into the detail. First, we need to, or I'll tell you how do we build the template preview image. We build it dynamically because I assume that we might load template file dynamically. Maybe you have, now we have two templates, but in the future, maybe we have 3 or more templates. So In the Zuo, that show you in the Zuo. The invoice builder you can see here. Actually here in the group box, this group box is a template box and it doesn't contain any image, but in in our browser, it actually has two images because we built it inside our controller. We build it dynamically. So let's show you how do we do it in the do after composer. The Keikai support MVC architecture. If you are a ZK user, you might understand that this rule is a view, represents a view. So you have to specify with apply attribute to assign a controller to receive, to listen to events to this view and implement your application logic in this controller. So here I assign a controller called Invoice Builder controller for the whole page. And because I specify in H layout, it's a root component of this page. And so I can control, this controller can control all the components inside this H layout. So in this controller, I do some initialization logic inside the do after compose method. It's the method we suggest you if you want to initialize something or initialize data for the customer, for the components, we suggest you do implement in this method because this do after compose, it is called after all component is created and also its child component is created. So because we applied on edge layout, so it's when the do after compose is called, that means the edge layout is created and all its child component are created. So we can do something like here, build template preview. So we used this template file list is now here is a fixed data, but yeah, you can assume this data comes from another data source. So it might be two or more. So in here, for each template, we just create a new image for it, and the image file has a naming convention. It always is a file name dash preview. So you can see here in our folder, there's a invoice template one dash preview. So there are two preview file. One is for each one has different uh, for each template. So append it. So there are two ways to create components in ZK. One is through the Zuo, one is through the Java API. So I can create the template, create the image component like use Swing API, Swing-like API, new image, and I append child into this template box. And what is the template box? The template box is here. It's a group box, and I can declare a template box in here and use wire annotation. So this variable name should match the ID of the Zuo. So this we call template box. So we need to use a variable name template box. So the ZK will inject, it will create a new group box and inject into this field. So you can see I never write any statement about new group box, but it runs correctly. This is a variable that I can I can use without a new statement. So I append this preview image into this template box, and I also add the event listener. So when I click event listener, when I click the image, it will add a selected CSS class into into the image. So you can see when this is another way, is a one way that you can register event listener on a component. So in this preview image, I added event listener. When someone click, I perform some logic like select template. And this select template just select set as class. The as class means it's a CSS class. So you can see when I click the image, it will add a border, a blue border on it, and this will add a bootloader on it. If you check the inspector here, you will find there is a selected CSS class here because I added when I clicked the I when I click the image. So when I click the second image, you can see the selected becomes appears in the second image. So this is how you can implement uh, a client logic in Java. So you will apply the selected CSS class on the image I click. Okay, so this is how I add the image, and I can change the image. And later I will show you how do we implement a check mark. Currently, Keikai doesn't support natively the UI controller in the Excel, but we have another way to show a check mark. For example, you can see when I click here, it will show a checked check mark. And at the beginning is unchecked check mark. So how do I do this without using a check mark components? Actually, we use the two symbol. The two symbol shows is a checked symbol and unchecked symbol. So I also add on click listener. So let's see, there's a on click listener here. Is this on cell click listener. So every time when I click a cell, it will invoke this listener. So I will check if it's on the customer sheet or product sheets, and when it's click, and I will check, is it a check mark row? Is it in a check mark column? If it's in a check mark column, because it's always in a column A. So I found if it's a check mark column, I will toggle the check mark. Just turn the switch check between uncheck, or switch uncheck between to check. So I just switch between two symbols to make it like checked or unchecked. So actually it's a string, but with two different symbols, so it would be check or uncheck. So this is one way that you can create a checkmark-like column in Keikai. Okay, let's go back to our slides. So this is how we implement the UI. And the next one, we need to populate customers from a database. So let's check the populate customer method. So in our code, in our sheets, actually, I just show you the original sheet is an empty table. It's an empty table. But when you create a table inside the spreadsheet, it actually will create a name range. So if you check the name range here, you will find there's a customer table and the product table. So you can actually you will generate a name range for you, but you can rename it to a meaningful name. So it's, I create a name range here, a customer table. Its a range is A2 to H6. So it's actually a range A2 to H6 is a range without the header, without the table header. So let's see. So it's empty at first, and let's check populate customer here. The populate customer is called at the beginning. So do we have to compose? I will build template review and initialize. So this method contains some initializing logic. So I'll populate the customers. So first I will in the initialize range, I already the Keikai provide API, so you can get a range by named range. So you can see I will get the range of this name range by its name, customer table, and I pass the sheet. This is the sheet of the customer sheet, and I want to create a range object with this name. So you will look for this name range and give me a range object then its range is the A2 to H6. So now this range object represent the range of table. So and in Keikai, every operations like set value, get value, or any sheet related operation or cell related operation, you need to first create a range object and call its API. So range API has many methods that corresponding to user action. So let's see the populate customers. So we already have the customer table here, and this is customer service. I assumed is a class that it will get customer list from our database, of course. But here we simulate the database. Usually there's a class. You don't connect to a database directly. You just rely on a data access object or any service object to get a list of customers. So after I get the list of customer, I need to populate data into the table. So this table, we range also supports some resize, range resize related API like to cell range and the to shift range. So because I want to fill the data from the left top corner of this table, so I don't really need the whole table range. So I need to string string the size of the customer table. So I will call the to cell size to reduce to return a range of one cell on the left top corner. Actually, it's not left top. It's this here. You can see it's to cell range. The original range customer table is here. It covers the whole table without the header. But what I need to do, I need this B2. So I call to cell range. The first parameter is the row index, and second is the column index. So if I to cell range, I pass the parameter 00, that means it's A2. 0 is A2. So your string, you will return a new range object which represent A2. But now because the A2 is a check mark, so I actually need to start with B2. So I call to cell range 01 to string the customer table range into a one cell B2. So I call 01. So this API means I will string it to a cells, and then for each customer I will set value in rows. This helper message actually just set a list of values in the same row. So it will set a name here and the second value here and the third value here. So it will set the multiple values, because here you can see I pass C, actually it's an array of string. So it will set the array of string call the range set value starting from this solid cell. So you will set the range of string one by one in the same row here. So you will set B2, C2, D2, E2, F2, G2, H2. So you will set. This is a helper class I wrote for this example. So you can, if you check the inside, you can see just it just set value here and shift to the next value, shift to the next cell. So we just set cell value one by one. Okay. And the next, after I set the first row, I set the first row starting cell. The starting cell should move to the next cell. So I want to move to the next row, and so I call to shift range. It will keep the same size of range, but it will shift the range to the next row offset or column offset. So you can see here, there's two shift range. First, I have B2, so I shift range to first is row index and next is row index, column index. So if I call to shift range 10, it will shift to the next row. If I call it again, it will shift to the next row. So in this loop, you first reduce to the one cell and then fill the whole row and shift to the next row. So in this for loop, it will just fill the whole row customer tables. This is how we can use our range API to fill the whole table. Okay, so this is how we populate a list of data objects into our table. Next, we introduce you about the user permission control. Okay, let's see the API. So after I built, preview, initialize range, and populate customers, I call the limit access because I don't want user to arbitrarily change my values or accidentally change my value populate from the database. This is just for select. So you can see I called a protect sheet to enable protections, and I don't. And here we have a sheet protection. You can see we have sheet protection objects, and actually in Excel there are 14 different permissions if you protect a sheet. So we also have an API with 14 different uh, parameters. You can see there are many. When you protect sheets, there are many available action you can select. For example, you can protect when you protect the sheet become read only, but you still can allow user to user cannot edit cells, but you can allow user to select cells. So if you don't allow users to select cell, user cannot select any cell and then cannot click any cell. That's not what I want. So I also allowed lock cell and lock cell. So we provide a builder like pattern API. So you need to create a sheet protection. You don't need to specify every permission. Just like sheet protection, create and specify what you want to do, what you want to allow users. For example, I want allow user to select lock cell. So I just select lock cell true and select unlock cell true, and I also want user to allow them to use filters. So I select filter true and call build, and it will create a sheet protection object. So it's a builder-like API, so you don't have to call everything for, or you can see if you really check, there are many API you can use. If you check this, these objects, you can see there are many 40 different insert column allow or delete rows allow. There are many methods you can call here. So there are many. So you just need to call the method that you want to allow the user set the allowed permissions and build this protection object, and then pass this protection object to the protect sheet. So you can see I protect two sheets. All sheet I is just passing. And we also have another API to you can disable specific features. So you can see we can disable user actions, and there are many actions you can disable, like add row, add sheet, add column, something like this. But now I just disable the add sheet because there is in Keikai, there is a add sheet button here on the left bottom corner here. So I just don't want user to add sheet. And other operations are already disabled because I don't specify. You can see we don't have you don't see a toolbar, you don't see a formula bar, you don't see any context menu or sheet tab context menu because I already hide them. So user actually they cannot do anything but just click the cell because they already limit access of this page. So you can see if I try to edit any cells, you will see a warning message that you cannot edit protected cell. So everything is in the sheet is protected. But in the second sheet, in the second product sheets, you can see most of cells are protected, but these two columns are editable. I can change the quantity here. So how do we do? We set here, we set the locked status to unlocked, so we don't check the locked status. If you check the normal, by default, every cells is locked. Every cell is locked. If you set it to unlocked or uncheck the locked status, then it will make it unlock. The unlocked cell is is those cells that you can edit under sheet protection. Without sheet protection, every cell are editable. But under sheet protections, only those unlocked cells are editable. So that's why I can edit these two columns. And the other columns, other cells, you can see it's not editable. So you cannot change anything. So that's the user permission control. You can, with these combinations of settings, you can control your user permission. Okay, next about reusing the book without importing. Okay, first we import the invoice source. It's our main user interface. But actually we have two other books, these two invoice template. So we also need to import. The import actually, the Keikai will turn an Excel file into a book object. You can use this book object. You can keep its reference. So you also can manipulate book objects with range methods, and you don't have to assign the book object into a spreadsheet component. Yeah, if you assign it to a spreadsheet component, that it will render to the browser. But if you don't, it's just like just treat it like a normal Java object. Okay, so to see how we do it, actually, if you want to import it, there is a import invoice template here. It's a method, and we actually rely on this importer. By the first source of the invoice source, we can import it like this because it's import by default. So we can just specify a fixed path here in the spreadsheet src attribute. So this is the simplest way. And the second way, if you want to import something dynamically, you can first get the importer here, and then you can call the import at any time to import your Excel file, and it will return you a book object. So here you can see, if I check the document, you will return a book object here. So here in this example, I put the book object into this map. This is a map. It's a string. The key is the file name, and the value is book. So I also use, for every template file list, with two templates, I just import them one by one here. But here I use a synchronous. I spawn a different thread here to avoid blocking the page creation, because this is one. This method is called inside the do after compose. So the do after compose is called when you visit a page. So when you visit a page, DK will instantiate this composer and call the do after compose. So the DK must execute these methods, then generate a response to the browser. So if there are many templates, but it actually is not used at the beginning, so I don't need. If I import it here with inside a servlet thread, it will block. The importing time will block the page creation time. So user will see a longer delay when he visits this page. But actually I don't want, because the invoice template is not used at the beginning at page creation, because the page creation, they just need to see the invoice, the main invoice UI. So this template just import in the background, and they didn't. I don't need it immediately, so I just run it in a separate thread, so it doesn't block the servlet thread. So when user visit the page, you will run this method and immediately go back to render to the browser. So this method doesn't block the servlet thread because it runs a different thread. Okay, so this is the reason why we import the asynchronous page. So when we click the import, when we click the create, actually we extracted those data from the table. For example, we extract it as a map, and the key is the column name. So there's a name, Deborah, and phone with its value, and email with value. So it's a map, and every map's key is our map to a name range. So the name, there's a name here, and the phone, there's a phone range called phone here. So I just show you. So when I click the create buttons, I will extract data from the customer table, product tables, and when I extract from custom table, I just set value into the corresponding name range. So you can see I just I just show you I already put the set the name range in each template. So each template has the corresponding name range. Here we call name, phone, email address, and agent name, agent phone, agent email address. So that's why also the invoice day, invoice number. So there are many fields that are already created. So that's why I can populate data with this name range. Even I change the position, like the second template, it has different position, but it also contains the corresponding name range. So I don't need to, my code doesn't contain, my Java code doesn't contain any absolute cell address. It just populate by name range. Okay, so this is the process. When I click the create button, you will extract data into map and insert into this invoice, and also insert data into this area. So this is the process. So that's how we let's check the corresponding code. So there's an event listener for button click here. Here, click a button, and will create a voice. So first, you will extract those customers, selected customer into the selected customer. This is a map. So I will extract the data into a map. For example, his name, his address, his phone, email, something like this into a map. And I also extract the products, the selected product into a map. Also like its unit price, its name, its description, something like this. So I will first iterate the table to check which product you select, which customer you select. And if you don't select anything, that will show a validation message. So you don't select the products, you'll select any customer. Then I will create a book, a blank book, we call invoice. And for every selected customer, I will just create a new sheet for it. So we have a range clone sheet API you can see here. It's a clone sheet API. So I clone sheet from the template. So the template, this template set contains book. These book are import asynchronously previously. So in the previous method, I just import 2 books and store into this map. Then later, now I just clone a sheet because I don't want to, I want to reuse the book. So the book, the 2 books are imported from these 2 invoice template 1, invoice template 2, they become 2 book objects. So in your system, you can make these 2 book objects maybe globally because everyone can clone the sheet from it. So you don't need to import it again and again for every user. Just import it to file once and become a global object that everyone just cloned. For every user, just clone sheet from it to create its own sheet. So you clone a sheet from this and create and set the sheet name as the company name. That's why you see here, if I select 2 products and 1 and 3 companies with this template, you can see the sheet name is a company name. This is a company name here. So this code, I clone the sheet from this is the book, and this is the sheet name. Okay, so I get the sheet name, and this is the book, and I get the sheet, the first sheet. So this is the first sheet of the invoice template, and I set the sheet name as the company name. So you can see I use the clone sheet API, and this API, the first parameter is the sheet name, the second is the sheet. It's a separate sheet from another book. So it actually returned a new sheet here. So this is the new sheet I cloned it from invoice template. Then I generate the agent data and I populate the agent data. The agent data actually just something fixed data. For example, here I use the fixed data, but actually it's the agent may log into this system. So you populate the agent name, phone, email, or invoice date, or generated ID, something like this. So, and later I will populate the name range with customer. So the customer field is a name range. It's a key value. For example, the key is the name. And the value could be Deborah, something the phone and phone value, email value. So this is the source data, and this is the target sheet. So I will get the list of name range from this sheet, and then for each field, I will check, okay, if you have the corresponding name range. Yes, if you have, then I get the name range and set the value with the key, with the map value inside the field map. So I will extract the map from the customer table as a map, and I set into the corresponding name range of into this sheet. So this is how I populate the name range. So populate name range. So you can just generate a list of a map and just populate it. And the populate products is a bit different because it's just a table. So I'll just get the table and use the same technique I mentioned before, just to sale range to get the starting sales, and that just set sale row by row here, row by row. So that's how you can do. Okay, so this is what. Okay, let's go back to our slide. So this is how we can populate a data. So we can extract a row is a map, for example, name, Deborah, phone, and phone value here, and extract as a map and populate to the name branch. Okay, so this is basically a whole process of these invoice builders. So this is basically my the training today. So if you have any question, please unmute your microphone or just type your question inside the chat channel. I will answer you one by one. For any question not related to Keikai, it not have to be doesn't have to be related to this example. Okay, someone asks, is it possible to use macro inside spreadsheet? Okay, no, it's not possible, but you have to turn your macros into Java code. So we also mentioned in this frequently asked question here. So you can see if you want more details, macro here. So even now, this Microsoft Office doesn't support Vimy macro because it's written in Visual Basic, and it cannot be run in a web platform. So if you have something similar, have some macro implement inside your file, you have to migrate it into Java, or in Keikai you have to migrate into Java with a controller. So that's my answer. Okay. Thank you for your question. And does anyone has any questions? If I include macro in Java, do I need to change code every time if I want to change the formula? If you implement something in Java, some logic in Java, every time if I want to change the formula, if you can implement your logic with the Excel functions, for example, for example, if it's just a very simple sum or some cell multiply with other cells, we suggest you just implement with Excel formulas. So you don't have to write, you don't have to implement in Java. So when something change or some logic change, you can just change the formula without changing your code, your Java code. So this is the suggest way. But if you have a specific logic that cannot be implemented in Excel formula, Excel function, that you can implement a Java function. There's a custom formula function here. So you can implement your function. For example, implement a exchange function or implement your business function in Java, and you can call it inside the cells. You can write your function inside the formula, and Keikai will evaluate by calling your Java method. Okay. So this is another way to implement a custom functions. Okay, do I answer your question? If you still have, if anyone has any other questions, doesn't have to be related to today's example. You can have another simple or another questions or similar use case that can be used with Keikai that you can raise your questions so I can answer, or you can describe shortly about your. Okay, what do you mean? When I populate data inside spreadsheet, can I download spreadsheet? That spreadsheet with the data? Yes, you can export. You can export it. There are two ways. One way is the normal way. You can export it into Excel file. So you can, after you export Excel file, it's just like an Excel file. You can open Excel, and you will have a complete data. And another one is you can export it into a PDF file. So you still can see the data, but you cannot change it. So this is another way you can export to get the data. So it depends on your purpose or requirement. You can export it to Excel file or into a PDF file. So after you export it as a file, you can let user download. So every time when you import an Excel file, you actually convert Excel file into a book object. Just like I said, you will convert into a book object. So every time when you change something, when you change some cell value in the sheet, it actually changing the cells object inside the book. It doesn't change the cell value in your file. So until you export the book into an Excel file, it will write the content in the memory into your file system. So you have to know this. Is this popular to get calculated value from the first sheet and display in the second sheet? Sure. So there are many ways to display calculate value from the first sheet. For example, you can use the formula to reference the first sheet. In the second sheet, you can reference the formula in the cell in the first sheet. So for example, I can, this is the first way. So if there is a this is the calculate result of the first sheets, and if you want to reference the sheet 1, need to reference the first one. So you need to type the, okay, sheet 1, of the first sheet. Okay. C1, C2. Oh, why? Sorry, it's C3. It's C1. Sorry. So this is the first way you can do it. So if you already established the formula between the sheet, then when you change the value here, then just like you use Excel, it will also display the calculated result in the second sheet. And the second way is you can use the API to get the value of the first sheet. For example, get the value of this C1 and set it to the second sheet here. So this is the second way. So it depends on if it's just very simple, then you can just reference by formula. If it's complicated, for example, you need to convert some value between when getting value and display in a different format, that you might use the Java API to get cell value and set cell value. Okay. I create formula in formula template. Then I create a new sheet with some data import. Yes. Apple and reverse template. Show the value for the formula prompt creation. Yes, I think so. Yeah, I'm not sure I understand, but in my example, there is also a formula inside here, inside the invoice template. So you can see this amount is the formula that calculate D20 and E20. So this is a formula I already wrote inside its value. So actually in Keikai, I already filled the product description, quantity, and unit price. I use Java to insert cell value with four columns, and so the amount will displayed the calculated results. I'm not sure if it's what you want. So you can see because there's no formula, so you can see I just inserted 4 cells here, and this amount is calculated here. So in the original template, it's 0, but here it's 120 because it's calculated by these 2 values. And these 2 values are dynamically inserted by Java. So is this what you want? Or do I answer your questions? So this is the cell value are dynamically insert, and the formula is already pre-written inside the sheet. So is that the use case you want? Okay. Yeah, okay, something like this. Then that's great. So is anyone has any questions about this? So you can use Keikai to integrate your business or turn your original business logic with Excel file into a web systems, because I think many companies that use Excel as their in one of their business workflow, and usually it's hard to integrate because there's no system that usually you must download a file to edit. So with Keikai, you can just turn your Excel file into a web system or web applications, and you can integrate with your existing enterprise system. Does the data lookup functions available? Sure. Yeah, we support lookup. So you can see there's a formula function support list here. Look, we lookup for edge lookup. Okay. Oh, there's a edge lookup, VLOOKUP here. So you can see we support VLOOKUP and lookup and edge lookup here. So if you want to know the complete list of the function, you can check our document in this section, feature and usage supported from a function here. So okay. So does anyone has any question for Keikai? So you can also check our demos if you want to see other use case. You can check out demo or blogs. The online demo has several use cases here. Introduce several functions you can check, and our document also has many introductions about APIs, so you can know how to implement it. And this document also has all the source codes today. You can check from our GitHub. So you can search the GitHub, the Keikai developer reference. So you can check here. And this is a Maven project. So you can, every source code or example code we mentioned in our developer reference, all the source code exists here in this project. So you can run it. It's a runnable project. You can check how to use it. So it's easy to learn. If you have problems to implement, or if you have some questions to implement some features with Keikai, you can contact with us. So we can give you an example or give you a related document so you can do it. You can also try it with our evaluation version. So you can clone this project and run it with evaluation version. The evaluation version contains all features that you can try it for Keikai. So just have the uptime limit, so you can try it first before you really integrate it into your systems. So you can try to build a proof of concept first for your key features to try if it fits your use case, and later decide to integrate or not. So it's very easy to verify, to evaluate. Okay, if no one has any other questions, then thank you for joining this training. Then we'll see you next time. If you still have any question, please contact us with email. Okay. Thank you. Bye bye.